Good morning and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Dave Deacon, filling in for Lyndall Stout this week. And combines are rolling across Oklahoma, so things are quiet around Foundation Seed this week. We've got a pretty good show for you, including the latest mobile device apps that can help you get the most out of your summer crops. Also, we're talking with Dave Lawman about fall weaning in a year where we actually have improving pastures. But we start off this week with the latest numbers from the USDA's PLC and ARC sign-up. With those numbers, here's Eric DeVeest.
Well, USDA just announced the second step in the sign-up for the Farm Bill. Back in April 7th ended the election period, and now they have to go in and basically say, yep, this is what we did. They signed the paperwork and get that done, and that will start on the 17th of June and will end on September 30th. So producers have lots of time, but they just need to keep that on their calendar and make sure they have an appointment to get in there and get that done. My understanding is what they signed up for late winter, early spring is what they're going to be in this year. There'll be some producers that didn't sign up for anything. They default into PLC and they're out for the 2014 year. This is a 5-year commitment, or potentially longer, as we've seen farm bills being extended as there have been challenges in getting a new farm bill passed. You know, this actually could be a 6 or 7 year commitment. USDA also released numbers on how the producers elected to the various options, and so I have some of those numbers for Oklahoma. Of course, wheat's our biggest crop, and 62% of the acres, the base acres in Oklahoma, went into Ark County. And that's probably the smart choice for most of our producers, because there's likely, for most counties in the state, will be an ARC payment for last year's crop, because the program actually started for the cropping year 2014. There won't be a PLC payment for 2014 for wheat. The reference price for wheat's $5.50 a bushel. We're looking at a marketing year average around $6.05, somewhere in that range. And so with the reference price being less than the marketing year average price, there's not going to be a payment there. And that's something that producers need to understand with the PLC program. They don't get paid the difference between what they sold their wheat for and the reference price if what they received was below that. If you sold in the trough of the marketing year, you may not get a price equal to the reference price. You could get below that and still not get a PLC payment. So it just shows that good marketing matters. If we look at canola, 95% of the acres are in PLC, and that's where those acres need to be. If you look at the reference price for canola, it equates to about $10.15 a bushel. And the marketing year average price is going to end up somewhere around $8.50 a bushel. So there's likely a payment for the 14 cropping year, and so that's where those acres needed to be. The remaining 5% went into Ark County, and those are probably producers with a pretty small canola base where it didn't make much difference for them, and they just signed their wheat acres and their canola acres up into the same thing and be done with it. Corn went 78% into Ark County. And that's pretty close to what the national average was. It's not clear when there'll be a PLC payment. Some producers in Oklahoma get an ARC payment. Not many. We had a decent growing season last year. The reference price for corn's $3.70 a bushel. Marketing year average price is going to end up somewhere around $3.70, so not likely to be a PLC payment. If there is, it's going to be pennies a bushel. Grain sorghum split about down the middle, 53 in PLC, 47% in Ark County. The reference price on grain sorghum is $3.95, and the marketing year average is going to end up somewhere around $4. So not likely to be a PLC payment. Peanuts, 99% of the base acres in Oklahoma went into PLC. The reference price is 26 3/4 cents a pound. The marketing year average price is likely to end up under 22 cents a pound. So producers are looking at somewhere around 5 cents a pound for a PLC payment for 2014 marketing year. Soybeans, 84% in Ark County, the remainder in PLC. The reference price for soybeans is relatively low when we compare it to other crops at $8.40 a bushel. And the marketing year average price is going to end up somewhere over 10 bucks a bushel. There won't be a PLC payment for 2014, and 2015 looks unlikely as well. So that kind of wraps up the main crops for the state of Oklahoma.
You may be thinking about weaning your fall-born cattle right now, and Dave, there's some things that producers need to be taking into mind right now.
Yeah, a lot of the fall-born calves will be weaned anywhere from early May all the way through the middle of July. And we have here in Oklahoma the last 10 to 20 years seen more of the fall calving. We've talked about it a lot on SUNUP. It does work well. And it allows you to wean bigger calves, and the calves we're standing in front of here are a good example of that. They're probably going to weigh, this year they're probably going to weigh around 750. We're going to go ahead and weigh those calves here in the middle of June. So yeah, the thing that people would want to be thinking about is, of course, how are they going to wean them, post-weaning management, if they're going to go on to the feed yard or market them to somebody who's going to finish them, when's a good time, and how are they going to graze them, summer supplementation, those kind of things.
This year we've been fortunate to have pasture for them to feed on this year.
Yeah, tremendous. We're glad not to be having to haul everything they need, and our pastures have recovered, and I think that's common across the state. So in this case, these cattle are on a systems experiment, but these calves will all get weaned, and they'll go through about a 60-day post-weaning, we'll call it a preconditioning period, or a stalker phase, if you will. And very similar to what Dr. Selk talks about, we'll go ahead and fence line wean the calves. As soon as they stop balling, we'll turn them out on fresh summer pasture like this. But as you know, this forage quality is probably at its peak right now, if not just beyond its peak, and especially in terms of protein concentration. I don't have this week's data on this forage, but my guess is that it's probably around 11 or 12% protein. It'll only go down from here in terms of protein concentration. These calves, if they're going to gain 2 to 2.5 pounds a day during the 60-day preconditioning period, or summer grazing period, they're going to need around 11% protein. And so by the end of that 60-day period, I suspect this forage will be down in the 7 to 8% protein range. So it'll be below their protein requirement. To fix that, pretty simple fix, tried and true programs, what we call the Oklahoma Gold program. It's 1 pound a day of a 38% protein product of some type. There are many different ways to deliver it. It includes an ionophore, such as Bovatec or Rumensin, and combined, that product should get you anywhere from 1/2 pound to 0.6 pounds a day increase in calf weight gain. So we can keep these calves gaining 2.5 pounds a day for that 60-day period, and they ought to be weighing somewhere around 850 to 9 by the time we send the steers to the feed yard in mid to late August.
If a producer's thinking about a quality enhancement program, say a VAC 45 program, what should they be doing right now?
Well, these calves have had one round of their complex or their BVD complex vaccination. They'll get a second round the day we wean them. And then we'll go ahead and deworm them again. We'll go ahead and re-implant the calves so that we'll get maximum performance from the forage that we have available during that 60-day period.
How easy is this program to implement for the average cattle producer?
You're talking about the post-weaning phase? Very simple, because particularly in a year like this, we have abundant forage available. And so we can take advantage of it and for 60 days, provide 1 pound of supplement a day or thereabouts with an ionophore, The calves should gain around 2.5 pounds a day during that time period. And we're just making better utilization of the forage that we're fortunate to have, the excess forage that we're fortunate to have. So it's low cost and it's very effective.
Well, thank you much, Dave Lawman, Extension Beef Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. Now, I'm going to start out this week showing you a map of the latest U.S. Drought Monitor. This might be the last time I show you this for a while. As you can see from the map, we just have a little bit of abnormally dry conditions left out in the far western panhandle. And with their rainy season coming along, I expect that to disappear pretty quickly. And let me show you another reason why. This is the outlook for July precipitation from the Climate Prediction Center, and as you can see, we have increased odds of above normal precipitation for July. That's actually kind of bad news. I think we're ready to dry out a little bit. Now, probably some good news going along with that extra precipitation will be increased odds of below normal temperatures. So, as normal in the summer, if you have a rainy month in the summer, it's generally cooler than normal. So, we might look forward to part of that, at least during July. How about farther out? Let's look at the July through September period. Again, the Climate Prediction Center shows us with increased odds for above normal precipitation. So it doesn't look like that drought is expected to return anytime soon. And sure enough, if we look at the U.S. seasonal drought outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, this is good for now through September 30th. We basically see no chances for any drought return in Oklahoma, or really most of the eastern 2/3 of the country. Only that western 1/3 of the country out in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, that area sees the chance for that drought to persist or intensify. And they've certainly been in a horrible drought, just like we were from 2010 through 2015. Okay, that's all we have for you this week. Again, well, we hope everybody came through Bill safely. Not as much flooding as we had during May, and next week we'll have Al back with you. And so until that time, we'll see you on the Mesonet Weather Report.
We're here with Daryl Peel, our Extension Livestock Marketing Specialist. And Daryl, we're halfway through the year. What kinds of things are we looking at?
Well, you know, the first half of the year, we've continued to see very tight supplies. Cattle slaughter is down about 7%. We've had big carcass weights, but beef production is still down 5%. So, you know, we're continuing to see those tight supplies as the major driver in the market. We've had lots of improvement in drought in the central part of the country, particularly in the southern plains. So we're in much better shape from that standpoint. Biggest challenge probably so far has been hay production so far in the southern plains.
And how are things looking as far as feed grains?
On the Midwest side, the crop production side at this point, corn production looks pretty good. There's probably been some loss of corn acreage due to delayed plantings or prevented plantings, but it's really pretty minor at this point. The general expectations for corn production are high, and that we will continue to see the kinds of prices we've had for the last several months, and favorable feed grain prices. In addition, the fact that we've had a lot of wet conditions during wheat harvest is probably turning some of that wheat into feed grains, and so we're going to see actually some additional feed grains due to poor quality wheat.
Now, as we move into the second half of the year, what kinds of things are we looking at?
You know, the beef industry in total, I think, is really focused on the demand side probably as much as anything. Again, with supply as the major driver, prices are high, retail prices are at record levels, wholesale prices are at record levels, and we continue to be somewhat pleasantly surprised but still nervous about beef demand. The indications are that it's quite strong relative to the supply available, but we've got more pork and poultry in the market right now, and so that's a continuing concern. Not that we have problems, but we just worry that it may cause problems. The trade situation, again, high prices, limited supplies, the strong dollar are all factors that affect that, so they're all things that we're generally keeping an eye on.
And what does that mean for the individual producer?
You know, for individual producers, again, the big change in drought conditions recently has allowed some producers that have kind of been on hold. They've been on the defense for about 4 years trying to get through the drought. Now they can turn their attention to being on offense and think about how to really get into this market, take advantage of it. Some of them are kind of starting from, you know, zero in terms of getting into this herd expansion that's going on and getting going with that. Other producers are a little farther along in that. So I think that's the big thing right now, is that producers are trying to figure out the best way to take advantage of this market. We're going to have another 18 to 24 months of generally strong prices for sure, and producers are trying to figure out how to take advantage of that.
All right, thank you, Daryl. We'll see you next time.
The fall-born calves, those that were born last September and October, have been weaned or soon will be weaned, and those heifers out of that fall calving crop that we're going to save as replacements are going to go out on summer pasture with hopes that they'll gain about 1.5 pounds per head per day between now and the start of the breeding season for those heifers in late November and December. I think we want to remember that even though our warm season pastures are green and growing and provide enough protein and energy for those young cattle now, that as we go into later summer, when we get into the hot, dry months of July and August and September, that forage quality is going to decline, if for no other reason than the plants become more mature and the protein content will, as we say, drop off. That means that a protein supplementation program for those young cattle is important. We want enough protein in the rumen so that the bugs in the rumen can do a good job of digesting this lower quality forage that will be available in late summer and in the fall months. For replacement heifers, I would suggest that you look at the Oklahoma Gold Supplementation Program. And that's just a program where we put together a package of a high protein supplement, something around 38 to 45% crude protein, fed at the rate of 1.5 to 2 pounds per head per day. As we're putting that supplement together, I'd include one of the ionophores, either monensin or lasalicid. Those particular products help us in about 3 ways. They help us prevent coccidiosis. It seems like those heifers reach puberty just a little bit earlier, so we'll have a higher percentage of them cycling at the start of the breeding season. And feed efficiency is improved just a little bit when we include one of the ionophores. Now, if we have some light heifers, those that we're concerned about not being quite big enough at the start of the breeding season and we want to push them a little bit harder, consider the Oklahoma Super Gold program. That's the one that stocker operators have used that basically has a lower protein, about a 25% crude protein supplement fed at the rate of 3 pounds per head per day, and include, again, the labeled dosage of one of the ionophores. It doesn't matter to me whichever one of these supplementation programs you decide works best in your operation, but I think they're good, efficient protein supplement programs for these young growing replacement heifers that gives them the best chance to be at the right weight, the target weight at the start of the breeding season, and we'll have a higher percentage of them cycling, ready to go to be bred in that breeding season. We look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Recently, Oklahoma State University released some mobile device apps that could help you in the field this summer. With an overview, here's Brian Arnell.
The Department of Plant and Soil Sciences at Oklahoma State University has been very active in producing apps. I want to go through 8 apps that have been released by the department, but no, there's many more coming out and are in the works. The first app I'm going to talk about today is the Canola Starter Fertilizer app. This app is produced to help producers figure out how much fertilizer they can put with seed. So this app goes through the process of where a producer or a user is going to select the row spacing, the fertilizer, and then it'll tell you what is the safe amount of nitrogen, potassium, sulfur you can place with that seed, and also the rate as far as product per acre. The next app I'd like to visit with you about is the NPK Field Guide. Within this app, you're able to look at nutrient deficiency ID symptomology. You also have the fertilizer recommendation portion. There are also notes in here about enriched strips, about how to place out enriched strips, and how to read those enriched strips when it's time to read them. The next app is a newly released app. It is the irrigation app, or crop nutrients and irrigation water. Within this app, you can go in there and put in your planned inches for a crop season, put in the ppm levels, or the parts per million levels, and the output provides you a pounds of nutrient per acre inch of water applied, and also pounds per cropping season, or that expected irrigation season. We also have an app called OkNRC. It is the generalized algorithm for crops for sensor-based models. In this calculator, you will go in, you will place the NDVI of your bare soil, the NDVI of your farmer practice, the NDVI of your enriched strip, and then it provides you a estimated nitrogen rate recommendation. This is a generalized algorithm that can be used across crops. We also have the winter wheat algorithm. This utilizes that standard winter wheat sensor-based nitrogen rate calculator that you can find online, but it puts it in an app form. So you'd use your Mesonet location, your planting date, your date of sensing, your farmer practice and enriched strip NDVIs, your price of grain and price of fertilizer, and it provides you a nitrogen rate recommendation for the winter wheat crop. There is also Protein Optimizer app. You can utilize this app a little bit later in the season to see if you want to produce a higher protein crop. You can utilize this app and the green seeker sensor and get a recommendation to apply or not apply based upon your yield prediction. There's also the ammonium loss applicator. It calculates out how much nitrogen you could potentially lose if you apply urea. Finally, a really neat app put out by Dr. Ochsner's group called Canopeo. This app, you utilize your camera on your iPad, your iPhone, or your Android device, take a picture of a crop. It can be Bermuda grass, it can be any crop. It goes then, sends that image into a calculator that then gives a percent greenness or a percent green area or percent canopy cover is the actual value it's looking at. All these apps are highlighted on a website, divisional website. The link to that website is at sunup.okstate.edu.
Word is that there's going to be less canola going into the market this year. Kim, what could that mean for Oklahoma canola producers?
Well, it should mean higher prices. If you look at the Canadian futures market for canola, it went from about $440 a metric ton up to $493. Convert that to, say, bushels in US dollars, it's $9.20. European Union, their canola price is about $9.77 right now in US dollars. And you look at Oklahoma, those prices run from about $6.44 to around $6.90.
Now let's kind of take the middle of that and say $6.70. How does that compare to the Oklahoma wheat price?
If you look at Oklahoma wheat prices now, they're around $5. So your canola price is still, say, $1.70 higher than Oklahoma wheat. On the Oklahoma, say $4.75 to $5.10 depending on location. Your July contract's at $5.07, $5.10, somewhere in that vicinity, but the market's fixing to roll to the September contract, which is running about 9 cents higher at around $5.17, $5.20.
Do we know what's causing that rally in the market right now?
Well, if you look at those market forces, you're always talking about the funds and wheat. They're net short 50 or 60,000 bushels. I think that's good because when they come out of those shorts, that could get us a price rally. But the big news is the excess amount or surplus wheat in both the United States and the world. And of course, Russia lifted their export tax on their wheat. They've been aggressively selling export wheat in the market. They're selling below the world price, and right now U.S. wheat prices are above world export prices.
How are the projected ending stocks looking right now?
Well, if you look at the U.S., 814 million bushels compared to 712 million last year, significantly higher. The 7-year average at 751 million bushels. A world just over 7.4 billion compared to just under 7.4 billion last year. 7 billion bushel average, so you're about 6% higher in world stocks, any stocks, than you were last year. So we've got more than enough wheat to meet needs.
Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture of that. Let's compare it to, say, 10, 11.
Well, if you look at 10 and 11, it's a lot like this year. The U.S. ending stocks were projected to be 862 million bushels compared to your 814 this year. And in 10 and 11, the average annual price was $5.70 a bushel. USDA has the U.S. price for 15-16 at $4.90, significantly lower with lower ending stocks. Now that doesn't make sense from a supply and demand standpoint. Lower supply, lower price. But if you look at the value of the dollar in 2010 and 11, it was that index was somewhere around 80, 81 points. Right now we're at 94, 95 points, around 16, 17% higher. That makes our wheat higher on the export market. And so if you take 570 and adjust it for that, you get down around 470, 480, which is below what they're projecting right now.
At that price, what should producers be doing in the future as far as marketing?
Well, the marketing year price trend is normally set in the August-September time period when we get into the foreign harvest, the European Union and other exporting countries harvesting. Right now, I would probably sell a third of it and save 2/3 of it to sell in September, October, November, December, because yes, prices are low, but I don't see any reason for that value of the dollar, the dollar index, to go lower. If it does, then prices will go up. But I think it's got as high a probability that it's going to go higher as lower. So I'd do the third and a third and a third this year.
So back to the Kim Anderson patented third and a third and a third.
I think so.
Okay, Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. You got Father's Day around the corner, maybe an anniversary, birthday. If you're shopping for that welder, we got some tips of things to look for.
Yeah, and it may not even be a welder, it may be a plasmark or something fun like that. So what we want to talk about a little bit is what in the world does that duty cycle mean on the front of there?
Usually the duty cycle will be on the rating plate on the welder or plasmark somewhere. The thing you need to think about is higher is better because you're going to get to use it more.
Right, so for example, this says that it's a 20% duty cycle, and that's based over a 10-minute period. So in 10 minutes, you can weld 2 minutes, and I get to rest the other 8. So I like this welder, but because I can rest 8 minutes and weld 2. But if I get one with a higher duty cycle, I have to work longer.
There's nothing wrong with that. We'll see you next week on Shop Stop.
Thank you for joining us this week on SUNUP. If you saw something on the show that you'd like to learn more about, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu. And while you're there, check out our social media. I'm Dave Deacon, and remember, Oklahoma agriculture starts at SUNUP.